In a society dominated by impulsive reactions, ego-driven confrontations, and a constant chase for external validation, the Sigma male moves with an entirely different rhythm. While the average person is caught in a loop of petty competition, arguing online, seeking approval, or retaliating against every perceived slight, the Sigma chooses a path of intentional restraint. He doesn't waste time engaging in drama or defending himself against baseless attacks. Instead, he masters the subtle art of controlled detachment. His silence isn't weakness, it's a tactic. His lack of response isn't surrender, it's strategy. This mindset is rooted in timeless wisdom. As Napoleon Bonaparte once advised, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. The Sigma male has taken that principle to heart and built it into the very foundation of how he handles conflict. While others chase the illusion of revenge or rush into emotionally charged retaliation, he waits, he observes, he calculates, and most importantly, he remains unbothered. Where many seek victory through noise and chaos, the Sigma male wins through clarity and discipline. To him, it's never about proving a point or settling scores. It's about mastering the entire game. While others play emotionally charged checkers, jumping at every move, the Sigma is playing a silent, strategic version of 4D chess. With the board flipped, the rules rewritten, and his next 5 moves already decided. All the while, he remains composed, perhaps sipping a cup of black coffee with the calm of someone who knows that true power is never loud. It's unshakably quiet. This deep exploration unpacks how Sigma males respond to sabotage, betrayal, and hostility not with emotional outbursts, but with an elite-level mindset. It reveals how they transmute conflict into clarity, betrayal into fuel, and enemies into pawns in a much larger game. A game in which they never sought attention, but always maintained control. 1. He didn't block them. He left the door open and walked away silently. When most people experience betrayal, disrespect, or emotional betrayal, they respond in one of 2 predictable ways. They either erupt in anger, cutting the person off with emotional outbursts, or they shut down completely, blocking, deleting, and storming off in an effort to regain control. But the Sigma male takes a different path, one that is far more subtle and far more unsettling. He doesn't retaliate with angry texts or social media rants. He doesn't remove people from his life in a dramatic display of power. In fact, he doesn't block them at all. Instead, he leaves the proverbial door wide open. No locks, no alarms, no final words. And then he simply walks away, not in rage, but in silent clarity. 3. He predicted their dirty play before it even started. The Sigma male is rarely, if ever, caught off guard by betrayal. He doesn't react with shock when someone reveals their true colors, because he already saw the warning signs long before the mask slipped. His insight into human behavior is razor sharp, not due to cynicism or paranoia, but because he spent a lifetime quietly studying how people operate. He watches patterns, he reads energy, and he listens not just to what's being said, but to what's not being said at all. He spots false friendliness in an instant, those who become overly kind or suddenly helpful only when they want something. He registers the passive-aggressive compliments masked as praise, the ones that subtly chip away at confidence. He notices when someone who once ignored him now shows unusual interest in his achievements, acting supportive only when he's succeeding. These shifts don't fool him, they expose intent. By the time someone decides to move against him, whether through manipulation, envy, or sabotage, he's already 10 steps ahead. He has observed the tension in their tone, felt the shift in their energy when he enters a room, and recognized the small tests they've thrown his way to challenge his boundaries. But rather than confront them or warn them off, he does something far more unsettling. He lets them proceed. He watches in silence as they unknowingly walk straight into a trap of their own making, thinking they're in control, thinking they're clever. Meanwhile, the Sigma male is no longer even playing the same game. While they're still plotting on level 1, he's rewritten level 5. Their plan targets an older version of him, a version that no longer exists. And when they finally strike, they realize too late that they were aiming at a ghost. For he played along just long enough to study them. The Sigma male doesn't confront threats head-on. He observes them. When someone enters his life with questionable motives or a hidden agenda, he doesn't push back immediately or expose their game. Instead, he plays along. He mirrors their energy, responds politely, and gives them just enough engagement to make them believe they've earned his trust. But behind the composed exterior, he's analyzing every detail. While they think he's being friendly, he's actually documenting their every move. He pays close attention to how their tone changes depending on who's watching, how their confidence grows when they receive validation, and how they sprinkle subtle jabs between hollow compliments. Every passive remark, every delayed show of support, every smirk masked as a smile. He logs it with surgical precision. He doesn't rush. He doesn't need to. The longer the game plays out, the clearer their pattern becomes. And by the time they believe they successfully infiltrated a circle, he's already mapped out their entire psychological profile. He understands not only how they'll try to betray him, but why. He sees their fear, their insecurity, their craving for dominance and validation, and he knows exactly when they'll try to strike. Then, just before their plan unfolds, he vanishes. No announcement, no drama, no confrontation. He simply disappears, taking everything he's learned with him. They're left standing in confusion, never realizing they were the ones under the microscope the entire time. While they thought they were playing him, he was studying the architecture of their deceit, dismantling it piece by piece in complete silence. In the end, the Sigma male doesn't defeat his enemies by attacking them. He defeats them by understanding them better than they understand themselves. The psychology behind leaving the door unlocked. Silence is finality. His quiet exit isn't a sign of indecision. It's proof of certainty. He doesn't need to announce that he's done. He is done. And that certainty echoes louder than any farewell speech ever could. The inevitable return. He knows that one day they'll come back. Not always to apologize, but often out of ego, confusion, or curiosity. People who thrive on manipulation can't stand being ignored. The silence gnaws at them louder than any argument. The echo of absence. What disturbs him most isn't what he said. It's the absence of reaction. No blame. No confrontation. Just peace. That kind of detachment makes them question everything, including their own worth. The unmatched power move. By walking away without burning bridges, the Sigma male creates the most psychologically jarring situation possible. When those who hurt him attempt to return, they're not met with resentment or welcome. They're met with the cold truth. He's not there anymore. They stand in the doorway of a connection they thought they controlled, only to realize it was never real and it no longer exists. The Sigma doesn't block because he doesn't fear their presence. He doesn't need boundaries. They never got past the surface to begin with, and when they return looking for a version of him they once knew, all they find is a mirror reflecting their own insignificance. Result: they're left infused, powerless, and haunted by the one thing they can't control, being peacefully, permanently replaced. 2. He let the system devour itself while he quietly built a new world. While most people are consumed by the need to succeed within broken systems, corporate hierarchies, toxic social circles, fake friendships, or institutions built on manipulation, the Sigma male takes a radically different approach. He doesn't fight the system. He doesn't scream rebel or beg for change. Instead, he watches patiently, knowing full well that anything built on dishonesty and ego will eventually collapse under its own weight. He doesn't play rigged games. He built a new one. The Sigma's view of broken structures. Favor over merit. He sees how talent is often overlooked in favor of obedience and flattery. Fake loyalty rewarded. He watches as truth-tellers are punished and yes-men promoted. Compliance over creativity. The bold are silenced, while the submissive are rewarded. These aren't systems to be fixed. They're designed to fail. The Sigma's quiet exit strategy. Gradual withdrawal. He doesn't rage quit. He simply gives less energy, less presence, less emotion, until the system barely remembers he was ever part of it. Avoids open conflict. He's not interested in overthrowing flawed leadership. He doesn't want a throne in a crumbling empire. He wants out before the walls fall in. Builds independently. While others scramble for approval, he crafts something real, something rooted in truth, vision, and personal freedom. His progress isn't noisy. It's focused. The aftermath, 2 different worlds. When the dust settles, those who schemed, climbed, and competed are still stuck. chasing promotions, empty titles, or shallow status in a structure that no longer functions. Meanwhile, the Sigma male is operating in a different world entirely. He's breathing fresh air, free of manipulation, competition, and pretense. He didn't beat the system. He left it behind. And in doing so, he won a kind of freedom others will spend their entire lives chasing, but never find. 5. He never exposed them. He let their patterns do the talking. In a world where people rush to prove themselves, defend their name, or call out deception, the Sigma male chooses an entirely different route. He doesn't react, argue, or expose the guilty. Instead, he stands quietly in the storm and lets time do all the revealing. He understands the fundamental truth about human nature. People show you who they are when they think you're not watching or not reacting, while others engage in shouting matches or try to win in the court of public opinion. The Sigma remains unbothered and observant. His silence isn't weakness. It's a strategic refusal to fuel the drama. He knows that people who lie, manipulate, or scheme often can't stop themselves. The more they speak, the more they contradict. The more they try to prove their innocence, the more their mask slips. By removing himself from the conflict, the Sigma creates a vacuum, one where their noise becomes more obvious, their panic more visible, and their deception painfully transparent. They begin to unravel on their own, tripping over their own web of lies without realizing it. Their desperation to be believed pushes them to expose the very things they were trying to hide. When the dust settles, their reputation lies in ruins, undone not by confrontation but by their own hand. Meanwhile, the Sigma's name remains untouched. He didn't have to retaliate or explain himself. He let their patterns, their inconsistency, and their inability to stay composed become the evidence. Sometimes, the most devastating response is no response at all. 6. He gave them the stage and let them destroy themselves. When a manipulative person enters the scene, most people instinctively try to shut them down, call them out, or silence their theatrics. But the Sigma male, he does the exact opposite. He steps aside, hands them the spotlight, and lets them perform. Because he knows something they don't. The louder someone screams, the more they reveal. Rather than interrupt, confront, or warn others, he remains silent and watches. He allows the manipulator to speak, lie, exaggerate, and twist narratives, knowing full well that the truth has a way of surfacing without his interference. The Sigma doesn't rush to protect his image because he's not playing the same game. His calm presence contrasts so sharply with their chaos that it highlights their instability without him lifting a finger. Over time, their contradictions pile up. Their stories don't add up. Their fake charm wears thin. The very tools they use to manipulate others, drama, gossip, and emotional games, begin to work against them. And all the while, the Sigma male just watches, unmoved. Eventually, the performance crashes under its own weight. The manipulator ends up exposed, not by the Sigma's actions, but by the sheer collapse of their own lies. There's no need for retaliation, no need for revenge. The truth stands quietly while the falsehood falls apart. And as the curtain closes, the Sigma walks away without saying a word, untouched, unmoved, and light years ahead of the game they thought they were winning. 7. He let their lies cement his reputation. In most social circles, when someone becomes a target of slander or malicious rumors, the instinctive response is to panic, explain, defend, or retaliate, but not the Sigma male. He remains stoic, unmoved, and completely silent. While others chase their reputations like broken glass on the floor, the Sigma male allows the lies to swirl around him, untouched and unbothered, because he understands something most people don't. Silence breeds mystery, and mystery fuels fascination. As false stories circulate, people begin watching him more closely, trying to reconcile the rumors with the man himself. And the more they watch, the more the contradictions and the lies become evident. They notice how he never reacts. They observe that while his name is constantly in someone else's mouth, he never engages in gossip, drama, or even passive defensiveness. In contrast, the people spreading lies seem erratic, overly invested, and increasingly desperate to be believed. Eventually, the narrative collapses on its own. The inconsistencies in the accusations become too obvious to ignore, and the observers start piecing together the truth, not from what he says, but from what he doesn't say. And when the truth does finally come out, It lands with twice the impact, precisely because the Sigma never asked anyone to believe him. He let the rumors do their dance, knowing that his consistency, character, and calm would outlast the noise. Ironically, the very lies meant to destroy him end up solidifying his image, not just as someone who survived the smear campaign, but as someone too powerful to be shaken by it. They didn't ruin his name, they unintentionally made it legendary. 8. He didn't take the bait, he owned the whole hook. When manipulators want control, they don't just show up with obvious threats. They bait. They throw out subtle insults, guilt trips, emotional manipulation, and orchestrated chaos, all in hopes of provoking reaction. Most people take that bait, falling into arguments, over-explaining, or trying to defend their honor. But the Sigma male? He doesn't even blink. Instead of reacting emotionally, he analyzes everything. He watches a manipulator's tactics with clinical detachment, cataloging every move like a scientist studying an unstable specimen. Where others would get angry or hurt, the Sigma sees opportunity. He turns their mind games into case studies, into wisdom, strategy, or even content that helps others spot similar traps. He extracts value from every insult, every guilt trip, every attempt to provoke him, and turns that chaos into fuel. And then comes the most devastating twist. He doesn't just avoid their trap. He takes the entire trap apart, hook, bait, and string, and builds something powerful from it. While they thought they were cornering him, he was turning the whole setup into a platform. He might write about it, speak on it, build ideas from it. He turns the very tools meant to hurt him into instruments of growth. Their attempt to manipulate him don't just fail. They become stepping stones in his evolution. That's the essence of Sigma dominance. Not just dodging the attack, but absorbing it, transforming it, and walking away stronger than before, while the manipulator is left confused, powerless, and forgotten. 9. He showed them what real power looks like. To the average person, power often looks like dominance. Being the loudest in the room, the most feared in a conflict, or the most followed in a social arena. It's about status, intimidation, and winning arguments. But the Sigma male understand that real power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from not needing to be seen at all. It's not about who fears you, who praises you, or who tries to take you down. It's about complete emotional sovereignty, the ability to walk away, remain silent, and remain unmoved no matter the chaos. True power, for the Sigma, is detachment. He doesn't cling to the need for validation or recognition. He has no urge to win the social game because he doesn't play for applause or approval in the first place. And most importantly, he isn't afraid of loss because he's already built his identity independent of external circumstances. So while others burn themselves out trying to get a reaction, trying to feed him, or trying to prove something, he simply rises above it all. They come at him with ego and noise, but he disarms them with indifference and clarity. The result? His enemies wage war against the ghost. They're fighting for victories he has no interest in claiming. They're trying to destroy someone who's already emotionally out of reach. And in the end, they're the ones left exhausted, while the Sigma continues to evolve, untouched and unstoppable. 10. He rewrote the rules mid-game. In any conflict or power struggle, people are usually confined by the invisible rules of the system they're in. They fight for dominance within a broken structure, trying to outplay each other, move up the hierarchy, or seize control. But the Sigma male doesn't do that. He doesn't try to win the game by their rules. He walks away and writes a new rule book, one they don't even recognize until it's far too late. While others are stuck reacting, the Sigma is creating. He doesn't retaliate because retaliation keeps him trapped in their framework. He doesn't waste energy proving he's right because truth doesn't require witnesses. Instead, he transcends. He exits the arena they're fighting in, sometimes physically, sometimes psychologically, and starts building a new system entirely. A place where he's not bound by the politics, manipulations, or limitations that once surrounded him. By the time his rivals realize he's no longer playing the same game, he's already operating on a higher plane. They might celebrate small victories, thinking they won. But what they don't understand is that the battlefield they conquered is now empty. The Sigma male is already left behind. He didn't lose the game. He changed it so fundamentally that their win means nothing. They fought for a throne in a burning kingdom. He built a universe they can't enter. Conclusion: the Sigma's unshakable edge. The Sigma male's power doesn't come from confrontation or loud declarations of dominance. It comes from his ability to render the conflict meaningless. He doesn't win by overpowering others in a traditional sense. Instead, he dismantles the entire premise of the fight itself. While the rest of the world is caught up in reactive cycles, desperate for recognition, revenge, or approval, the Sigma quietly exits the stage and begins building something untouchable, his own version of freedom. His edge lies in silence and strategy, and in his refusal to be pulled into battles that don't serve his growth. Where others chase fleeting validation or momentary wins, he remains focused on constructing a life rooted in independence, clarity, and purpose. He doesn't seek to destroy his enemies. He simply outlives their relevance. This is the essence of the Sigma male. Not a warrior who conquers through force, but an architect who designs a reality where the noise of the world no longer reaches him. That's not just intelligence. That's mastery. And that's why, without shouting, without begging, and without breaking, he always comes out on top. Do these ideas resonate with you? If you found yourself nodding along or reflecting deeply on the traits and experiences we explored in this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Sigma male mindset isn't often talked about openly, and your perspective, whether you identify with it personally or have encountered in others, adds valuable depth to the conversation. Drop a comment below and let me know, which part hit home the most for you? Have you seen these traits in yourself or someone you know? Your insights help build a community where authenticity and growth are prioritized over popularity and performance. If you're drawn to this kind of introspective, no-nonsense content around Sigma males, psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and high-value living, there's more waiting for you. Explore the other videos on this channel for deeper dives, actionable insights, and raw truths that cut through the noise. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay unapologetically real. Until next time.